What's going on, you guys? It's Nick Johnson, your favorite sports YouTuber here, back with another video on today's sports topic. Now, it was like a half an hour ago that this came out. I just got home from running errands with my grandma. I was just eating my sandwich because I was hungry, and then next thing you know, while I was eating, this report came out, and the report was in the NBA. Um, All-star shooting guard Paul George has agreed to sign a 4-year, $190 million max contract to stay with the Los Angeles Clippers. So, all the talks of where Paul George is going to end up after this season, because he had a player option in his current deal that he was probably going to decline anyway and test the free agent market after this coming season. But that got shattered right away completely because he has now signed a 4-year extension to stay in Los Angeles for the next couple years. So now Kawhi Leonard is a whole different story, and we'll probably make another video about him sometime later because he has that same player option that he can easily decline after next season as well. So that's somewhere we're gonna get into later. But yeah. So Paul George is gonna stay with the LA Clippers for 4 years worth $190 million, like a supermax extension, as we've been talking about. Anyways, my thoughts on this. I mean, it's a saving grace for the Clippers because considering the fact that what if both Paul George and Kawhi Leonard don't stay until next season, what is your future gonna look like? I mean, your future would not have been all that bright if both Leonard and George were to depart from the Clippers after this coming season. Because, like I said, both have player options they can easily decline in just the free agent market and possibly sign somewhere else. You know? So, with that being said, Paul George is the first domino to fall, so he's staying in LA for the next couple of years. Now we're going to have all eyes on Kawhi Leonard. It's a saving grace for the Clippers. The reason why I say that is because all the first round picks that they traded away, along with young assets such as Danilo Gallinari and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to the Oklahoma City Thunder in exchange for Paul George, like, you just basically derail your whole future for one guy who was known for, don't get me wrong, he's a top 10 player in the league, all-star, all that, and he's a valuable defender, one of the best in the league, but is known for having his streak of playoff failures. And his performances in the playoffs don't help him save him that much, especially in this past season's playoffs. And we all saw how that ended up against the Denver Nuggets, how he was horrible late in the game, especially in the second half and the fourth quarters, where he was 0 for something, 2 for 17 and whatnot. Especially that one three-pointer that he literally hit off the backboard, nowhere near the rim. So we pretty much stayed on all that. But the Clippers don't have a first-round pick. As I said, they traded away all their future for one guy with all known for his playoff disappointments, and they literally don't have a first round pick until 2027. So that's another 6 years of waiting until you get that first round pick. I mean, depending on what his value is, if his value is really that strong, you probably trade him away, use him as trade bait for one of your first round picks back, or at least a couple. But they don't have a first round pick till 2027. They pretty much mortgaged their entire future for one guy to have another guy come on board, and that's Kawhi Leonard. Now, of course, Leonard's status, we all know for him being the one of the best players in the league. Many people thought he was like the best player ahead of LeBron James ever since he carried Toronto to an NBA title in 2019. So this was like over a summer ago. And he came to the Clippers, joined forces with Paul George, and basically kind of rejuvenated a Clippers team that needed to find its identity in trying to figure out what they really are. Because it wasn't that long of how the Lob City era pretty much ended. Because if you remember the Lob City era, and if you were really watching basketball at that time, the Lob City era, which is their big three of Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan. a rising young stud power forward in Blake Griffin, an all-time great point guard in Chris Paul, and an athletic center in DeAndre Jordan, the Clippers team were one of the best teams in the league and usurped the Lakers as the best team in LA. Unfortunately, never known for their playoff failures because they can never get out of the second round of the playoffs. So you move on from that. You traded away Chris Paul to the Houston Rockets in a 7-player deal. And then you let DeAndre Jordan walk in free agency to Dallas, I believe. And then to cap it off, you traded away Blake Griffin to the Detroit Pistons after you realized it wasn't going to work. So you got rid of all these 3 guys. You pushed the Golden State Warriors to the limit in 6 games in the first round of the 2019 playoffs with nobody. Like, the closest names you could think of was Patrick Beverley, Landry Shamet, a young rookie in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Danilo Gallinari, like a whole bunch of role players on the roster on paper. Excuse me. Whole bunch of role players, and yet you still push Golden State to the limit. Fast forward to the ensuing summer, you added both Leonard and George, and on paper, along with the guys that I mentioned, along with career 6th man of the year, Lou Williams, and a good centerman, Montrezl Harrell, the Clippers on paper would look like to go at it and make a very deep playoff run and get out of the schneid that they've been in for like the last 50 years of their existence, you know? What I mean by that is that the Clippers as a franchise, even back to their time, their originating days as the Buffalo Bisons, they have never at least even made it to a conference finals. Not even once in their history. Not once. And this team looked like they was primed to do it all. You had Leonard, George, a great supporting cast, and you added more depth to your roster with Marcus Morris Sr., Reggie Jackson, and Joakim Noah, who was more of a reserve player than anything, but he still adds value to that in a way. And then you had a great head coach in Doc Rivers. The Clippers team was primed to probably overtake the Lakers officially as the best team in LA. And we was all hyped up for this battle of LA Western Conference final matchup between these 2 teams, with Leonard and George for the Clippers against LeBron James and Anthony Davis of the Lakers, who are the reigning NBA champions, as we all know it. And it was like a hot commodity here in LA. It was generating a lot of attention. It would make like millions of dollars. Everybody was really hyped up for it. That was until the Denver Nuggets came about. And the Clippers had their way with the Nuggets for like the first 4 games of the series, of 3-1, till they completely fell apart after 3 different times where they had huge leads by halftime, and then they just squandered all up and then lost the series in 7 games to a Denver Nuggets squad who wasn't even thought of making a deep playoff run. But then you had Nikola Jokic, one of the best big men in the league, and a rising superstar point guard in Jamal Murray, who really blew many of us out of our minds in the playoffs, especially in the bubble. Like, they went on to face the Lakers in the conference finals, and of course the Lakers would easily dispatch them in 5 games and would go on to beat the Heat to win the NBA title. And since then, like, the future of the Clippers was like really up in question. Like, what would be the future of Leonard and George after a disastrous collapse against the Nuggets? And what will the Clippers be like? Because think about it. They had already let Doc Rivers walk to the Philadelphia 76ers. They rather fired him after now coaching 3 different teams to have a 3-1 series lead and then subsequently blow that lead and lose the series entirely. That's what Doc Rivers is now being known for, despite winning an NBA title with the Celtics back in 08, and that was like a lifetime ago in my view. That's about it. You know? And then you replace him with Tyronn Lue and Chauncey Billups as your 2 coaching staff leaders for the next few seasons. I don't know what that's going to look like, but hopefully there'll be much more improvement and adjustments down the road for this team going forward. And we all remember Tyronn Lue. I already made a video about Lue and Billups in one of my videos a couple months back, So be sure to check that out if you want to. If you want to. So it's up to you. But yeah, that's like my that's my take on that. So Paul George is the first domino to fall. Now we got to see what the future of Kawhi Leonard is going to be after this huge announcement. So, and looking and just revisiting what I've said just now, this may be hopefully the last chance for the Clippers to finally make some noise and get out of this miserable hump they've been in. They have never been to a conference finals. They've never, let alone an NBA finals. So maybe we'll anticipate a battle of LA matchup that we've been hyping up all season, probably next season. So, and speaking of season, the NBA season is going to start in exactly 12 days, December 22nd. Of course, I'm excited in a way. So, yeah, of course, the Lakers will start their first title defense in 10 years. And we'll see how that goes. I'm really excited. And it'll be interesting to see where this Paul George extension is going to carry the Clippers going forward. So, yeah, only time will tell, is all I can say. Anyways, that's my thoughts on that. Make sure y'all hit the like and subscribe button. Make sure to hit that bell com button where you get my notifications of when I'm gonna upload my next video. And let me know what you think about this extension in the comment section. Do you think it's a good deal? Do you think it's saving grace, or do you think they're just further draining their future down the toilet? Like, let me know. Just let me know, and we'll have a conversation about that. All right? So with that being said, I'm Nick Johnson, your favorite sports YouTuber, and I'm out. Peace.